Will the church be going through the tribulation? This is a vitally important question that needs to be answered by every single Christian. Having a correct or incorrect understanding of this question will have an effect on whether or not you are expecting Jesus to arrive at any moment. You see, there are those who believe in the post-tribulation rapture view, which is the teaching that the church will go through the whole 7-year tribulation, and then they will be raptured at the end when Jesus Christ comes to set up his kingdom. Well, these people are not expecting Jesus to arrive at any moment, but instead they are first looking for the Antichrist and the events described in passages like Matthew 24 and Revelation 6 to 19. Then there are those who believe in the mid-tribulation rapture view, and this is the teaching that the church will go through the first 3.5 years of the tribulation and then will be raptured. They believe that the wrath of God is only poured out in the second half of the tribulation, and therefore the church will be removed before this takes place. Then there is the pre-tribulation rapture view. This is the teaching that the church will be removed from the earth before the tribulation takes place. But which view is correct? Well, I believe that the only scriptural view that has proven to be 100% consistent is the pre-tribulational rapture view. And I believe that we can demonstrate an example of this by trying to interpret passages like Matthew 25, beginning with a post-tribulational rapture view. And you will see that it just doesn't work. Now let us begin with the context of Matthew 25, and we'll look at verse 31 to 33. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory, and before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. So we see the context is Jesus coming to set up his 1,000-year kingdom reign, which no doubt happens after the tribulation. And he gathers a group of people called the sheep, which are people from the nations, and another called the goats. Well, who are these people? Well, first let us examine the sheep. In verse 34 we see, Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, this is the sheep, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. So we see that these people must be saved, because no one is going to go into the kingdom who is unconverted. But how do we know for sure that these people are saved? Well, let us look further what Jesus said about these people. Notice in verse 35 to 40 it says this, For I was an hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, or clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Well, we need to ask then, are these sheep saved because of their good works? No, not a chance. This is unscriptural. These people are saved because of their faith, but they had evidence of saving faith. If you remember what James said in James chapter 2, verse 14 to 18, it says this, What doth it profit, my brethren, though a man say he hath faith and have not works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister be naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you say unto them, Depart in peace, be ye warmed and filled, notwithstanding give them not those things which are needful to the body, what doth it profit? Even so faith, if it hath not works, is dead, being alone. Yea, a man may say, Thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works. Now, if you look back at verse 40, you'll see who these sheep nations are doing these good works towards. It says there, And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Now, who are these my brethren? Who is Jesus referring to? Is this the church? Well, if you say it's the church, then you have to ask, why were the sheep not a part of the church? If they got saved in the tribulation, they should be referred to as my brethren also. But this is not the case, because the sheep referred to saved Gentiles in the tribulation, and my brethren refer to the Jews who are also in the tribulation. Now, we don't need to examine the third group of people for very long, because it is quite clear who they are. The goat nations are those who did not look after my brethren, and they were unsaved people. This is clearly evident from Jesus' words in Matthew 25, verse 41, which says this, "Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels." Now, if you'll notice in this diagram, we can see three different people. We see Israel, which is my brethren. We've got the sheep nations, which are saved people. And we've got the goat nations, which is unsaved people. Now, I have a question to ask to the post-tribulationist. Focusing on the sheep nations, who we know are saved people, how is it that they go through the tribulation period and they go past the rapture into the kingdom? How did they miss the rapture? Now we know they go into the kingdom because it says in verse 34, "Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world." You see, the problem for the post-tribulationists is this. If the sheep are saved, why didn't they get raptured? Well, if you say that the rapture is the separation of the sheep and goat, well, there's another problem. If the rapture is post-tribulational and not pre-tribulational, then when the Lord comes back to the earth, there is not going to be any sheep to separate from the goats. That separation would have already taken place at the rapture. Now, if you claim that the sheep are involved in the rapture, then you would have to try and figure out who it is that's going to inhabit the kingdom. You see, in the kingdom, the Bible tells of people who are going to even rebel against Jesus. There are people who are going to grow to an old age and even die. And there is also going to be a great explosion of people saved in the tribulation who will go into the kingdom and worship the King in their unglorified bodies. You see, none of these are possible for people who have been glorified at the rapture. Some might argue that the group of saved Jews called my brethren are the ones who are going to go into the kingdom and do all those things. But the problem is, these are also saved in the tribulation, and you have to ask, why weren't they raptured either? Now, another possibility that could be true to the scriptures is the mid-trib rapture view. Now, as you can see from this diagram, we have the sheep in the second half. And so this will explain how they go into the kingdom, because the rapture would have happened in the middle, and they were saved in the second half, and they go into the kingdom without the rapture getting in the road. Now, all I would have to do is prove that there are people saved in the first half of the tribulation who go into the second half, and they also miss the rapture. Now, if we go to Matthew 24, we'll see in the Olivet Discourse, Jesus giving his disciples instructions of what will happen in the first half of the tribulation in verses 1 to 14. By the time we get to verse 15, we have reached the middle mark, which says, "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains." And so we can see from verses 16 to 30 and onwards, Jesus explains what is going to take place in the second half until he comes to set up his kingdom. Once again, we can see people who are saved in the first half, who go through the midpoint, missing the rapture, and those who have to endure the second half. This is another group of people that miss the rapture, apparently. You see, the only solution to this problem is that the church, which is a mystery, has been taken out of the way via the rapture before the tribulation starts. And once we are raptured, then the tribulation begins. This is the time when the Gentiles, the sheep nations, are going to be saved, and my brethren are going to be saved, the Jews. Now, this makes perfect sense, and it agrees entirely with the scripture. You see, God has promised that the church will not have to endure the wrath of the tribulation. For you see, it says in Revelation 3, 10 to 11, "Because thou hast kept the word of my patience," this is referring to the church, "I will also keep thee from," now in the Greek that means keep thee out of, "the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world, to try them that dwell upon the earth." Now, how is he going to make us get out of the tribulation? Well, it says this, "Behold, I come quickly," referring to the rapture. "Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown." You see, the church has been promised to be removed from this hour of tribulation. It says also in 1 Thessalonians 1, 9 to 10, "For they themselves show of us what manner of entering we had unto you, and how ye turned to God," speaking of the Thessalonians, "from idols to serve the living and true God, and to wait for his Son from heaven, whom he raised from the dead, even Jesus, which delivered us from the wrath to come." Also in 1 Thessalonians 5:9 it says this, "For God hath not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Jesus Christ. This is the wrath of the tribulation, and not the wrath of eternal hellfire." We are not going through the tribulation. If you are a saved, born-again child of God in the church, you will not have to suffer through the tribulation. You will be raptured, whether you like it or not.